here to bring you a new type of news show. New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We're News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Friday, August 23rd here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and you're watching News Generation. Today, we're joined by Choi Ji-hee.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And Ki Kim.
TGIF. It is Friday. Hello.
TGIF. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Now, as usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online. American singer-songwriter Taylor Swift has broken a new record, becoming the solo artist to perform the most time at London's Wembley Stadium in a single tour. Swift took to the stage at Wembley a total of 8 times during her Eras tour, which ended on Tuesday. This surpasses the previous record of 7 performances set by Michael Jackson during his Bad Tour in 1988. Now, back here in Korea, Korea tech giants Naver and Kakao have been ranked among the top 5 most desired employers for university students in the country. According to a survey by job search platform Job Korea, Naver secured 3rd place while Kakao came in 5th. However, industry insiders say neither company has plans to hire new employees for the remainder of this year. Leading the survey were Samsung Electronics and Samsung Biologics in 1st and 2nd place, with SK hynix taking 4th. In sports news, Paris 2024 Olympic silver medalist and sharpshooter Kim Ye-ji is expanding her career into new fields. Kim is set to participate in a one-time magazine photo shoot wearing Louis Vuitton and has recently signed with the management agency to support her modeling and broadcasting endeavors. According to the agency, dozens of brands have expressed interest in having Kim as their brand ambassador. At a press conference this week, Kim said that she's open to exploring various opportunities, including acting, as long as they don't interfere with her training. The 31-year-old also mentioned plans to appear in dramas, commercials, and TV shows. So here in the studio, I want to ask our panelists, what are your thoughts on Kim's new career directions?
I mean, I think it's definitely helped her and her career, and of course for shooting, because shooting is relatively the minor sports in Korea. There were some big names like Jin Jong-ho, who used to be a gold medalist.
Right.
He was appearing on a lot of TV shows, reality shows, and definitely helped. People are not, but yet people are not even familiar with the rules or even what sort of sports that they are for the shootings. But what saddened me, though, only a few of the heroes were chosen to be the models and in the spotlights. Obviously, conglomerates and a lot of companies have to think about the commercial benefits that they would have coming from choosing these models. But was kind of hoping that they could share a little bit more lights on those athletes who are in less fortunate condition.
Especially minor sport athletes,
exactly.
Right? Right, so definitely more spotlight is needed for minor sport athletes. What are your thoughts on this? Because I know that you are a big fan of Kim Ye-ji. We talked about this 2 times, except for today's episode. So yeah. I'm sure you're pretty excited about this, right?
I am. So just imagine a top-notch Olympic shooter branching out into ads and movies. I'm already very excited. And I think that could definitely give sports shooting a boost. Just think about it. You've got this silver medalist who's not just killing it on the range, but also popping up in commercials and on the big screen. So it's really going to get people interested in shooting sports, and more folks might give it a shot.
Right.
After seeing their new favorite actor nailing targets, really. Of course, a lot depends on how likable this athlete is and how enjoyable the movie is, but it's a pretty solid game plan for putting sports shooting on more people's radar. However, I believe the athletes should remember that they're athletes, not actors or celebrities, and ensure that they prioritize practice and avoid making mistakes.
Right. So cheers to Kim Ye-ji's future endeavors, and as Kim mentioned, hope that more athletes, especially in minor sports, could get the spotlight that Kim Ye-ji is receiving in the world now. And that was our news feed for this Friday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Now, previously here on NewsGen, we've explored the YOLO trend, which stands for You Only Live Once, which has seen the younger generation eagerly splurging on concerts, vacations, and other experiences, prioritizing their pleasure. But today, we're looking at a rising trend that's quite the opposite. Take a look at the screen to find out more.
In contrast to the YOLO economy, there is a new trend on the rise, YONO, which stands for You Only Need One. This trend focuses on cutting back on unnecessary spending and embracing a more frugal and practical approach to purchases. What's behind this shift in spending habits among the younger generation?
So today, as we're talking about a rising trend, let's find out whether this is actually rising among the younger generation by asking our panelists. So first of all, Yoo Ji-hee, do you consider yourself part of Team Yono or Team YOLO?
Well, I'm Team Yono. I'm just all about that Yono lifestyle, I think. Well, I bought my car used and I'm planning to keep it for the next 10 years.
10 years? How long have you had your car until now?
Well, it's been used for 4 years when I bought it from my dad because he had it leased for 4 years. And I've been using it for a little over a year. So in total, it's been 5 years with this car. And another 10 years, I'm sure it'll withstand it as long as I don't get any accidents or the battery burns or whatever. So, and I also try to keep a budget as well to make sure that I spend money where it counts. And I'm really into practical spending. And if I already own something, I try not to buy another just because there's a newer version out there. And it's the same with my phone. I tend to keep it for quite a while, even if that subscription has ended. And I think it's all about making smart choices and cutting out the unnecessary. And this is all part of a growing trend where people, especially like ourselves, the millennials and Gen Zs, are shifting their focus from more is better to less is more. And we're seeing a shift towards minimalism and mindful consumption. Now, people are ditching the idea that they need to keep up with the latest gadgets or fashion trends. Instead, they're focusing on what truly adds value to their lives. And it's about quality now over quantity and making each purchase count.
So Ji-hee is part of Team Yono that we're talking about. Then let's turn to our other panelists. Ki, are you a Yono person or much of a YOLO person?
Ji-hee makes me really feel guilty.
Me too.
In many different ways, but I'm more of a Team YOLO. Like everyone else is, I'm under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, and being YOLO sort of evens things out. So I used to be a tech whiz, right? So I bought a new phone every time they release a new phone.
Really?
So like every year almost, I changed my phone, new laptop, new tablet PC. But since I got married, everything changed. And since I had a child, I'm usually not a big spender. I don't buy clothes. I don't go to fancy restaurants that often. I always compare prices of milk and eggs when I go grocery shopping, of course. But I do buy one big thing a year. For example, the car I own is a foreign import. It's a sports car. It's not a super luxurious car, but to reward myself and to compensate my nearly 2 decades of service for Arirang, I bought this car about a year ago, and I'm going to keep for 20 years next.
20 years, a new
My
record.
son. But I really liked it, and I'm so happy that I became a grown-up and was able to own this car and afford this car, the car that I really liked since I was little. And I also have an electric drum set installed in my house, so it's just such a tremendous stress reliever, drumming. And like she said, I try to stay on top of things, and I try to calculate my budget and not overspend it. Yet sometimes being YOLO definitely helps my mental health.
What if your son doesn't want your car 20 years
we
later?
can discuss later. We can discuss later.
Right, so Ki mentioned that you're kind of closer to YOLO, but you mentioned how you're not trying to overspend. So I think that you certainly possess the trait of being a YONO, right?
That's true.
Right, so both our panelists, they have traits of the Yono tribe. And as they both mentioned, Yono is all about spending only on essentials, needing or buying that only one thing. So I want to ask you, Ji, why do you think the Yono trend has gained so much popularity among the younger generation, and are there any other examples?
Well, millennials and Gen Z are really feeling the pinch from high inflation and rising interest rates, and it's definitely changing their spending habits. Now, they're all about buying only what they really need, focusing on practicality over luxury. And you know, those days of flexing on fine dining and omakase are really fading now. So let's take a closer look at some examples on the screen. So as you can see, luxury car purchases are down while used car sales are on the rise. And convenience foods, or HMR we call them, and budget coffee, you've talked about coffee in yesterday's episode,
Right.
are becoming more popular too. And when it comes to entertainment, spending on things like movie tickets or OTT subscriptions, live performances, and exhibits has dropped as well. So it seems like fewer people are hitting up the movie theaters these days as well, especially with ticket prices soaring. They've really doubled. They're like 15,000 won,
Yeah,
right?
like $10 in US
Around
dollars.
$10, yeah. And if they do go, though, it's often on Culture Day, which is the last Wednesday of the month, when they can catch a film at a discounted rate. And that counts with me as well. I try to go on that Culture Day if I want to go to the theater. So it's clear that people are tightening their belts and being more strategic about where they spend their money.
Right, so more younger generation buying used cars, decreasing their spending on streaming services, etc. Are there any other examples that you'd like to add, Ki?
Well, like you said, definitely I can talk about food because I'm a food lover. So if you take a look at the social media, the trend was all about showing off the good food they eat, luxurious restaurants, fine dining, omakase, of course. That was almost a symbol of YOLO lifestyle. But instead, nowadays, they do the prep meals. So
Right.
something simpler. They make lunch boxes or dinner boxes for the entire week, so they would spend less. And this way, you can also calculate the calories you're having, so it'd be good for your diet as well. And many MZers do secondhand shopping, so they are not purchasing new clothes, shoes, or bags. What they value is having an experience of putting them on rather than actually owning them. So according to one of the surveys from an online shopping platforms, 71% of them had an experience of buying secondhand items in past 12 months.
Interesting. And we actually talked about the secondhand shopping trend among the younger generation previously here on NewsGen. And as Ki mentioned, one of the ways the younger generation is actually adopting the Yono lifestyle is using secondhand shopping platforms. So back to our panelists, do you also use these services often?
Oh, absolutely. I always prefer buying secondhand gadgets in particular when exploring new hobbies such as guitars, golf clubs, or books even. As long as they're in good condition, I find it the most practical option. But then if I do make significant progress in these hobbies such as playing the guitar or playing golf, I might consider investing in a new set, but that's a decision for another time. And I also sell some of my items on these platforms to earn some extra cash.
And only because you only want to buy or have the things that you only need,
Yes.
right? Right, so Ji, you're definitely a Yono person. You're like the perfect example of what we're talking about today.
I think so.
What about you, Ki? Do you also use these platforms often?
Yes, definitely. I mentioned several times in the show before that I enjoy playing console games, and it's a great way to use these platforms to purchase some of the titles because it's much cheaper. And especially for the baby items, babies grow really quick.
Right.
And all the items like toys, tools, equipments, you no longer need them in a couple of months because baby grows really quick.
Right.
In that case, these secondhand items come in really handy. You buy them or sell them on these platforms and, it's better off that way.
Right, so this usage of secondhand platforms are another example on how our generation is going Yono. Now, we've talked about the situation here in Korea, and to expand our discussion, we also asked our viewers if they identify more with the YOLO or Yono mindset. And here's what 3 of them said. If we look at the comments, Leonteo93 says, I live by the Yono approach as it's more minimalistic and allows me to focus on essential and meaningful experiences or possessions, valuing quality over quantity. MIMS says, I live by YOLO, but I am always telling my mom YONO. Benny D97 says, I chose YONO because I want to maintain what I have and keep my budget as well. So the comments from panelists also from our viewers also show that just like our panelists, they're actually into the YONO movement or the YONO lifestyle. Now, for more insights into why more young people are changing their spending habits, we're going to invite an expert to our talks right after this break. So for our interview today, we're joined by Dr. Jared Watson, Assistant Professor of Marketing at the New York University Stern School of Business. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Watson.
Thanks for having me again.
Thank you for joining us once again. So our first question for you is, what do you think is driving the rise of the YONO lifestyle among the younger generation?
I think there's really two big interconnected factors that are driving the YONO lifestyle amongst the younger generation. And those are the socioeconomic factors. Younger generations, millennials, Gen Zs, tend to have a sustainability focus. We tend to have environmental considerations central to our lifestyle. There's also the economic pressures that we're facing in the world today. Those combined have us understanding that it's much better to find value with one higher quality good, even if it's higher priced, if we don't have to repeat purchase in the future. The other element of that is the social influence, right? With the rise of technology, with social media usage amongst younger generations, we also see what our peers are doing, and as a result, we look to emulate their lifestyle. This is one of the reasons I think we've seen such a stark shift in the demand for experiential over material possessions today.
I see. We now get the cause behind this new trend, but what are some of the defining consumption patterns then that characterize the YONO movement?
Sure. So in general, I think the YONO movement is thought of as a minimalist lifestyle. This means people are owning fewer items, they're focusing on quality over quantity, they're minimizing waste, and then within some segments within YONO, there is this sustainability focus kind of explicitly inherent to it. So those are the big key pieces, and I'll also add the experiences over the possessions of products.
So, Professor Watson, the society is changing really quick, and do you expect another significant shift in spending habits in anytime soon?
So, trends are always hard to predict. There's lots of things going into that, from social to technological to economic factors. With that being said, I wouldn't think of it so much as a shift as I would an evolution, right? The world is getting smarter. We now know more, so we have to do better with that information. Technology is evolving. And so what I expect to see happen within YONO is a hyper focus on customization, right? So now consumers will be acquiring more bespoke goods, right? We'll have, rather than buying the t-shirt that's half a size too small or half a size too big, we'll be able to order in our ideal size online. As a result of that, I think we're going to see the YONO lifestyle become even more achievable because we're going to have better options for customizations and fit online. I would say that's one key factor. The other important one to highlight is just the rise of the sharing economy. Individuals are gaining more comfort with sharing products, whether that's a taxi across the city, to something like a tool library. Now we can rent tools from our local libraries for home projects. And so with the rise of the sharing economy, the advancement of technology, I think we're going to see an evolution of YONO.
Excited to see the evolution of YONO. Maybe you could give us more insights when we talk about that in future here on NewsGen.
Absolutely.
All right, Dr. Watson, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good seeing y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, now going back to talking about YONO, going YONO doesn't mean that you've actually become a penny pincher. As Dr. Watson mentioned, it's more about thinking about sustainability and also practicality, as you guys mentioned. So ending off today's discussion, as members of the younger generation, what are your thoughts on this YONO trend?
Well, as we've been continuously talking about, the YONO trend is all about being smart with your spending, but it doesn't mean, like you said, you've turned into a penny pincher. The real essence of YONO is knowing when to spend and when to save. It's about making conscious choices and valuing what really matters. So, for instance, when it comes to family and special occasions, I don't hold back. If it's a birthday, anniversary, or any significant event, I'm all in. And the YONO mindset actually helps you make those moments even more special, I believe. And it's about mastering the art of opening your wallet when it counts and keeping it closed when it doesn't. And we're shifting away from mindless consumerism and towards meaningful experiences and purchases. So you're not being cheap, you're being strategic.
Not being cheap, but being strategic. What about Yuki?
I agree with her. When I was a little boy, the school used to make me and other students write down 용돈 기입장, which is a spending diary.
Right.
And I think it's a really good habit. Although the amount might have been small, you know the money flow, you understand how far you can go and when to stop. And the very good grown example would be 지기. It's the same thing for the grown-ups too. And we used to have this interior trend called minimalism, having your home simple, like having less furniture and just necessary home appliances. And I think YONO is very similar in that way. So YONO is not necessarily about how much of a penny pitcher you are, but more of a how wise and strategically come across your finance.
Right. So hope our discussion today on YONO helps you make wiser consumption choices in the future. Now that's all from us today, but NewsGen will be back next Monday at 9:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks today to Chitihi.
Thank you.
And Ki Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching and hope you have a great weekend. We are News Generation.